Welcome and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. On the program today, we're going to talk about how adversity can change to opportunity, depending on whether or not you have the courage to take the step to move in that direction. On the program today, we are going to be talking about the book, 30 Days to Kickstart Your Life Change. Joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program is someone who's lived that very thing and found things change dramatically for him. I'd like to welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program today our guest, Mark Bowness. Mark, how are you today?
Very good, thank you. I'm here in Australia, and it's 4 o'clock in the morning.
So part of the life change is to be sure that you're up early enough to do interviews transcontinental then, right?
Exactly, you got it right.
Now, tell our listeners how all this started for you. What's going on here?
Yeah, so my kind of story and situation goes back to, well, essentially as I was growing up, I was brought up in a Christian household that went to church on Sundays, and I went to university and studied theology. And during university, I was running a non-profit organization that I'd set up. So eventually I was a church leader. I was speaking at churches on Sunday mornings. I was producing a magazine. I'd written a Christian book. I was taking young people to Africa to work in the slums. And yet I was growing in this sort of Christian sort of ministry and environment and being looked up to as a leader. And yet during this time I'd met a girl and we got engaged, we got married, and my relationship was totally falling apart.
That's no fun.
No fun at all. And you know, it was the hardest time of my life, in that, you know, we tried to find a way to see this through. I'd probably got married too young, but the arguments were just insane, and it was this tension between the fact that I was being looked up to, I was being respected. I got to the point in my life where I realized that I was living this life that everybody else expected me to live. I'd had people looking up to me, and there was a pressure there. There was a pressure in my own mind of how my parents expected me to live, and it all came crashing down the day that essentially my wife walked out. I knew that my marriage was over, and as I looked into the future, I was in this apartment surrounded by everything that we'd built together. I looked to the future, and it was a dark future. It was a future that I didn't want to walk into. I'd had to move back to live with my parents, and my job was over. Everything was over for me, and I just didn't want to move into that future.
Now, that's always difficult, too, when you realize you're at a point that you don't want to get up in the morning. Well, what do you think was going on besides the fact that you have what seemed to be the obvious things getting you down, but what was it internally that was going on with you?
Yeah, and I think that's a really good comment. Like, I didn't want to get up in the morning. Every single day it was hard work. You know, in the morning I'd stay in bed, and I wouldn't want the night to end. And I always kind of explain it as the floorboards of sort of sanity in my mind just crumbled. Mm-hmm. Like, you start to live at this different level in a bad way, because you've given up on life. You've given up on yourself when you get to that depressed state. I didn't even care what I looked like in terms of, I wasn't looking after myself. I wasn't, just things like shaving. I was drinking 3-4 cans of beer a night just to numb myself from the pain. Mm-hmm. I'd given up on myself and life.
Would you say that this was a point that you began to face perhaps the dark night of your soul?
Absolutely. You know, when at the time my family say that I was a walking zombie, I was there, but my mind was somewhere else. You know, people couldn't have a normal conversation with me. I'd just given up, and it was just such a depressing, to the extent for me that when my wife did walk out, I'd totally given up. I'd made a decision in my mind that I did not want to walk into this future, and so I started Googling most painless and quickest way to end your life, to kill yourself. And I actually went through that act of trying to take my own life.
Mm-hmm. And it didn't sound like it worked.
No, and as depressing as all that sounds, that experience for me was absolutely and fundamentally the beginning of my life change. It really, the events happened, and so as they did, it was the best thing that could have happened to me in terms of the solutions and the way that my life was turned around. The next day I woke up in hospital, and I was obviously thinking about the events of the day before with this fuzzy head, and it was amazing. I realized in that moment that I'd lived on planet Earth for 26 years, and yet I'd never truly lived. Mm-hmm. And it was this revelation of how incredible life is, this newfound comprehension of the fact that we live life once.
Mm-hmm. Did it seem overwhelming as you came into this awareness?
It was totally mind-blowing because I'd realized that I'd lived this path and I'd done everything. And I'm not blaming anybody else, but due to my own issues, and I've lived this life to please others. And suddenly it was this awakening that instead of seeing my past, my future as this dark future which I didn't want to walk into, I began to see my future as this blank canvas on which I could paint whatever picture I wanted. That life is this gift, and all of a sudden I was waking up every morning just ready to go at life. After taking myself through this process of changing my life.
Now, when this began to happen, this change, what was the thinking or that you were having that I guess kind of excited you, or at least you thought to yourself, now this is something I've never experienced before?
Yeah, it was this newfound, genuinely, a newfound appreciation for life, and it to the extent where I suppose I've got to this really dark level, dark place where I was so unhappy, and everything, the joy in my life was based upon the things that I was doing, my job, financial security, being in a relationship. And suddenly I've just experienced this joy of the gift of being alive. And so I've developed this mindset where it didn't matter. All the circumstances of life didn't matter. The joy was truly found from the act of being alive rather than the situations that I encountered. And so with that mindset, I could overcome anything in my future that I encountered, and also have the energy and the motivation to see myself through those situations.
Mm-hmm. Now, out of this whole thing, you began to impart perhaps your experienced wisdom to other people that you knew were probably feeling or going through the same thing that you had. And what was enlightening about what you were able to discover and share with others?
Sure. Well, it was more of a process, really, because what happened was, just to kind of complete the story for yourself and the listeners, in that, so seeing my life as this blank canvas on which I could paint whatever picture I liked, I wanted to do something. I wanted to just do something crazy and have fun with my life. And so I ultimately, so this was only 3 months after trying to take my own life. I had no money, I had nothing. I came up with a crazy idea to lease a 200-acre island in Fiji and to set up a website and invite people from around the world to become tribe members. So online they would get to decide what they wanted to do on the island, what accommodation they would build. It was an eco-island, how they would interact with Fijians on a nearby island, and then they could get to go and visit. So again, only 3 months after going through this process of trying to take my own life, I was featured in Good Morning America, Today Show, New York Times. The concept was filmed for 18 months and became a primetime TV show. So I've gone through this process of not just having these dark thoughts and trying to take my own life and then finding this warm, fuzzy feeling. I pursued, and with a process of wanting to do something with my life and to achieve something that wasn't based around the situation that I was in with no money, etc. But it was based upon my knowledge of the ability that I was created and I exist to do something. And so it was with that extremity of near death to absolute life and living that I could then go and show others that, it's one thing just to act positive and to say positive things and to be motivational, but I was actively changing my life and having these profound results, as a result of that. And that's the message that I could share with people, the how of what I've done, rather than just explaining the story.
Mm. I know a lot of times people, they find, when you can get through that darkness, that I think we all experience it maybe at different levels. For years it was certainly extreme. But it's really interesting to step through that and you realize that life, as you said, is really worth living, and that it really isn't so much a lot of times about what we get out of life that's important as much as what we use within ourselves, our talents, to give into life, the miracle of what it is for others. Was that sort of how you began to recognize things?
Yeah, for me it was about purpose. I'm really big on purpose. And obviously, I'd still had that kind of spiritual level to my life, and I believe that everybody was created for a purpose, that we all exist for a purpose. And I remember as a child that at school, then I would get my end of year school reports, and they would say Mark has potential. And potential for me is that if I do X, Y, and Z, then I might be successful. And I started to believe in the fact that within each one of us is in place God potential, that within the DNA of each one of us, at the moment we're born, is this amazing amount of energy and ability to do, to create, to achieve, to give, to contribute. And it's once you engage with that God potential, the reason that you're here, that you start to connect with, this amazing energy, and you find that ability to and desire to want to do something with your life.
Mm-hmm. Now, how has it been for people that you've been able to touch, influence? Tell us about that.
Yeah, and it's happened. This is what's amazing. It's happened at various levels, and so I'll just explain some of those. But even through the concept Tribe Wanted, you launch something, you start something, and it takes on this whole kind of energy of its own. And so what happened with Tribe Wanted was really exciting. And even through launching this concept, we've had people have met through the concept. We've had 5 couples get married because they met through this concept I created. Children were born as a result of this concept. So there's that level. But then there's also this level where I inspire and motivate people to want to do something with their life, to quit running that treadmill and to achieve something with their life. And lots of people talk with their friends and they have these crazy ideas, and those ideas remain just ideas and just conversations. And I'm a big believer in doing, because everything that you see, you feel, you touch, you use was once an idea in somebody's mind. And I genuinely believe that if we release those ideas, then we have the cures we can discover the cures for cancers. We can create businesses that are the solutions to the unemployment opportunities. And they're all within those ideas and the minds and the heart of people who have only had the confidence to just go and chase that idea and go for it, then who knows what will happen. So I've set up a website, lifechangedtherevolution.com, which is all set about to inspire people to change their life, to change their community, to change the world, and there's a whole bunch of free resources on that. And I'm also in the process of launching what I've called a New Year's revolution.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's really fascinating to realize, I'd like to touch on what you were just talking about the ideas. Everybody has ideas. That's sort of hardwired into us, I would say. But you said something that's so true when it comes to initiating the action behind the idea. It's easy to sit around and have all the ideas all day long, but it's a totally different story when you actually initiate the action on that, because you just really don't know where that's going to take you or what's going to come about it. And I think what's exciting about knowing that is the mystery of life unfolding and you having that natural childlike curiosity to just kind of go after it. And I think sometimes for a lot of us as adults we put the ideas, maybe on the back burner because we have tried to, engage a couple of the ideas. They didn't work out the way we thought they would, or we hoped they would, or they may have changed our lives in ways we didn't like so much. And so we just don't seem to pursue them unless there's kind of a guarantee somehow that it's going to work out the way you thought it did. But certainly that's not the way it's supposed to happen, because sometimes the simplest idea will work out in ways you never could have imagined. And that should be pretty exciting to get up in the morning and face, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And as you say, it's all about that energy. Once you put your energy into just this idea and you have this kind of loose, vague kind of concept that you'd like to start, and then you just let everything take over. You put your energy and effort and attention into it, and it takes off in one way or the other. But it's this fear of failure, and this is something that I'm big on as well. But one of the main reasons that we don't start these ideas is because what if it doesn't work out? What if I lose a bit of money on it? What if my friends think, oh, I've had a crazy idea, it didn't work out, and that they kind of laugh at me? And there is that fear of failure. And yet, if you put something out there, if you start an idea measurably, so you're not losing lots of money, but you test it, and you just have the confidence to give it a go, as you say, the most amazing things happen. People, I've done it with Private Wanted and other things, and people contact you, and you make these amazing connections. But it's about, we all have these issues of our lives, whether we need a job or whether we would like more money. And, I believe that we all have the ability to financially sustain ourselves, that within us are the gifts, the abilities, the talents to ensure that we never go without finances for the rest of our lives. And it's about, for me, it was about seeing life differently. I'd had this experience of nearly wiping my existence off the face of the planet. And so I saw life differently. And, I've launched crazy ideas just because I know that I can. And let's just see what happens with it. And one of the attitudes that I have is that I went through a period where I didn't have a job. And I was thinking, right, I'd love to work for a TV production company. I'd love to come up with ideas for TV shows. And instead of just looking for vacancies in TV production companies, I set about on a mission to write a list of the 10 TV production companies that I'd love to work with. And I just wrote these emails. I came up with these crazy ideas to make contact with people there. And every single job I've had are jobs that weren't advertised. They were created for me because I'd engage with these people. I'd grab their attention. And I think that's really important at this moment in time when people are struggling for jobs and need more money. But it's about seeing life in a totally different way. And when you step out of above the crowd of everybody that's sending off their resumes, you can really get results.
Well, it sounds to me like you certainly lived Einstein's maxim in a different way, and that is that you can't solve problems with the thinking that created them in the first place.
Exactly.
What would you like to say to our listeners today, starting now, that they could do as you talk about your 30 days of changing your life, that they can get started doing now? I mean, ideas that's a great starting point, but, what would you say to them?
Look, I think the main thing for me, it's all about, to me it's about leverage. The key to changing your life, whatever area of your life that needs changing, the key to changing your life is leverage. And so for me, when I got to the darkest point of my life, the pain of being in the situation that I was in had to be greater than the pain it took to change. And so I had to be so sick and tired of the situation that I was in that I found, as a result of that, my life went one way or the other. It was either ending it or putting all my energy and attention and focus into making sure that change happened. And so it's the same with ideas. You know, if you need to change your financial situation, and we go through this process of whatever area of life it is that needs changing, we go through this process where we start moaning about it. It becomes our identity. We become the person that has the illness, or the person that doesn't have the job, or the person that's been treated badly by X, whoever X is. And that becomes our identity. It's only when we choose to divorce ourselves from that story and to do something about it, to have that leverage to make that change, that's when real action and life change takes place.
Mm-hmm. That must feel very exciting as it's happening, too, isn't it?
Yeah, as I say, that total difference for me, it's hard to kind of describe unless I suppose you've been there, but literally I would wake up in the morning and I would not want to wake up. The darkness became my friend, that I just wanted to hide from life, and then to find this energy where every single day I'm up, I'm on emails, I'm thinking about ideas, I'm launching stuff, I'm engaging with people, and just creating new things that people can experience and enjoy. I'm now addicted to life, and to be able to say that from the situation that I used to be in is quite a turnaround.
That's very exciting, and I'm sure that your energy passes to other people, and you've become that light that they want to see themselves become as well. Does it ever get overwhelming for you to be in a situation like that?
I think that for me, yeah, what happens is the more vulnerability that you share it with your own life story and situation, which I do a lot. I'm a guy to tell people that I try to take my own life. There's a level of vulnerability there, and that vulnerability attracts vulnerability. And what I mean by that is that people feel safe to share, to open up. And so I will open my emails and I will see emails from people who are in those darkest, painful situations that they're going through right now. And what I know through my own experience, that when you're in those situations, it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's hard to think that something will change, that your life will be different. And so, that is the bit that's overwhelming for me, that when you get these emails that are people in this dark kind of pain, and it's working with people at the level that they're at, and some people know that they're in that situation, but they're not at that point where they've found that leverage, where they're absolutely desperate for their situation to change. They're comfortable to be in the situation that they're in, even though it's painful. And so there's only so much that I or anybody else can do until you've made that decision to change in your own life. So that's the stuff that's overwhelming. The amazing, overwhelming stuff is just the results, the fact that, I had an email just recently that somebody had been on my site, they've been following my free podcasts and resources. As a result of that, they've given up their job and they made the decision to go and explore the world, to go and travel, and to launch a consultancy on the way, and to have an email of somebody who directly said that my work and my the inspiration that I'd given them was the result of their decision to do this was absolutely incredible. It's great.
Well, the exciting, too, thing, Mark, for our listeners to understand about your story or stories that can seem like yours is that things change and things can always get better. And sometimes things aren't so great either, but that gets to be enjoyable in and of itself because it allows you the opportunity to change and grow. As you hear, for instance, that a lesson keeps repeating itself until it is learned. And I found that when I have these dark times or these rough times, just moments I'm not too excited about. And I realize, what is my thinking in that moment? How am I feeling? And when did I feel like this before? And how can I change so that this moment may not come and see me again? It's sort of like looking for catastrophe, inviting it in, with open arms. It just doesn't seem to come around as much as it did back in the day when you felt like you were running from it or hiding from it, as you were talking about earlier.
Yeah. Sorry, I lost you there. The connection went a little bit, just that last bit.
Well, that's okay. And so the idea is that you begin to, I suppose, embrace adversity. You look for it, rather than hiding from it, as you were talking about earlier. And that begins to change. It doesn't really seem to show up as much as opportunity does. Does that kind of what happened with you?
Yeah, it was all about, I think the key was a decision as to how I view my life and how I wanted my life to be in that process. As I say earlier, I felt like I was just on this treadmill, and I know that many people can relate to that. I've got to a point where, people get to this stage where they might not have gone through the experience that I have in terms of trying to take my own life, but for many people, they go through life with something inside them having died. So whether they're in a relationship that they know is just at the moment over and is struggling, or financially they're struggling, or they have these dreams for their lives that don't exist anymore, that people walk around with this, almost this kind of thorn in their flesh. But it's about your attitude towards the situation, your attitude towards life. And it is, once you change that in your head and you make a decision to view life as this amazing gift and opportunity, that's when real change starts to happen. But nobody else can do that for you. You can't get that from personal development books, self-help books. It's something that you have to find within yourself in order to truly bring about that change.
And start by engaging in your ideas. Even the craziest ones. Just see where they take you.
and sometimes things are, they are crazy. I've been to some of my ideas have gone amazingly well. Some of them have just sunk. I once bought, and I'll share the story with you briefly. I once bought an open-top double-decker bus. It was a purple open-top double-decker bus. I had this idea, if I could take this bus around the UK and people could come on this bus and share their ideas for TV programs, then I could pitch these ideas, these TV programs, to production companies. At the time, I thought this was the best idea in the world ever. So if you picture this, I bought this bus. I need to bring this from one end of the country to the other. The key thing, part of the story that I should share with you, is that I don't even have a license to drive a car, let alone a bus. So I've hired somebody to drive this bus for me. I'm sitting at the back of this bus. I've paid for this bus on a credit card. I've just put hundreds of pounds worth of petrol in this bus. Sitting on this bus going back to where my parents live, thinking, what the heck am I doing? This is the worst idea ever. And ultimately, I actually sold that bus and made £1,000 profit. But it's just, but sometimes you have to go through that. What am I doing to refine ideas, to change ideas, to improve ideas? I would rather start on that journey of having launched an idea and think, this is not exactly how this should go, and start to change and adapt, than just sit there wishing that my life was different.
Yes, you could sit around for the rest of your life wishing life could get better, but like you have said, it's up to you to take the action to make sure that happens. Now, Mark, how can people find out where they can get your book from?
Yeah, so the thing I'd really like to promote at the moment is if you don't mind, is I've launched this free resource. It's called New Year's Revolution as we go into the new year, 2014. And So this change that I made in my life was a New Year's resolution for me a few years ago. And I'm working with people to not just change one aspect of their life, but to change every aspect of their life, to start a revolution in their life, which means to throw off an old way of living for a new way of living. And so I've brought together 31 personal development experts. We're launching an ebook with 31 chapters that covers everything from how to lose weight to how to be in a relationship, how to improve your relationships. But we go a lot deeper, and we look at how to love yourself, how to gain confidence to start these ideas. We look at 31 areas of life. This is an ebook, it's a webinar series, it's an online community. It's totally free, and you can register now to receive that for free at the end of the year on joinanewyearsrevolution.com.
And there you go, listeners. Now you don't have any excuse to not take action. You can't say, well, I don't have the money, or whatever the case may be. It's up to you to start taking action today, and it sounds, Mark, like you've presented the opportunity for people to do that.
Absolutely. So that's joinanewyearsrevolution.com, and you can also find my work on lifechangetherevolution.com. Loads of free resources, blogs, podcasts to really inspire people to make that change in their life.
Very good. Mark Bowness, thank you for joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed it, even at 4:30 in the morning.
Thanks again. We want to thank you, the listeners out there, for joining us. Again, you can find out more. We'll have a hot spot on our website, beyond50radio.com. You can find out more about Mark, his work, and how you can be part of the revolution as well. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for joining us. You've been listening to the Beyond 50 radio program, and remember, live your day past halfway.